Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from Australia's Victoria Police say that they are in the middle of a manhunt for 3 suspects this week after a man was the victim of a terrifying home invasion robbery that ended with his entire house being burned to the ground. The horrifying situation began at around 1:15 a.m. on June 23rd, when the victim, identified only as a 68-year-old farmer, heard a knock at his door in the tiny rural town of Yei. When he opened up, he was confronted by 3 men armed with 2 guns and a machete. They forced their way inside and also demanded that the farmer hand over all of his cash and firearms. When the victim refused, things quickly turned violent. According to reports, the 68-year-old victim was beaten and dragged from his house before being forced into the trunk of his own vehicle. When he managed to get out, he was threatened again by his attackers, who doused him in gasoline while also setting his residence on fire. The 3 suspects then fled the scene, taking several of the man's firearms with them. While the farmer miraculously was not seriously injured and managed to drive to a neighbor's home to call for help, sadly, by the time emergency responders arrived and extinguished the blaze, almost nothing was left of his home. The residence was completely leveled by the blaze, and the 68-year-old lost essentially everything inside. At the time of this recording, police are investigating and are still trying to locate and identify the 3 perpetrators. Though the victim did not know the suspects, it's believed that this was a targeted attack. Speaking about the incident with reporters this week, Victoria Police Senior Constable Bridget Bowman summed up the disturbing crime this way, saying in part, quote, "It's horrible. You think that stuff like this wouldn't happen in the country, but here we are." Anyone with information about the incident or the identity of the suspects is encouraged to reach out through Crime Stoppers. Authorities in France say a bizarre and deeply troubling scene unfolded at Disneyland Paris this past weekend after staff at the theme park stumbled upon what appeared to be a wedding ceremony involving a 9-year-old child. According to reports, the private event took place around 5 a.m. on Saturday, June 21st, before the park had opened to the public. Police were called to the scene after staff became suspicious, and for good reason. They say they witnessed a young girl dressed in a wedding gown with 4-inch heels taped to her feet, walking down the aisle beside an adult British man. That man is now under arrest. Investigators say that the man had hired out a section of the park for a reported 130,000 euros, roughly $150,000 USD, falsely claiming that the event was merely a wedding rehearsal. However, they alleged that this was just a cover story. It also appears theme park officials weren't the only ones who were duped. Pretty much everyone there, other than the main suspect, reportedly had no idea what was really going on. This included the guests, who were paid actors recruited online. Ads for the gig allegedly sought 200 adults and 100 children ages 5 to 15. It didn't take long before security staff realized that something was off. The bride, who turned out to be a 9-year-old Ukrainian girl, was escorted away and police were called. 4 people were taken into custody. The British man, who allegedly organized the whole thing, the child's 41-year-old Ukrainian mother, and 2 Latvian nationals, ages 55 and 24. Here's where things get really strange, though. Police say that they still have no idea whether this was a legitimate attempt to do something incredibly sinister or if this was some kind of publicity stunt. Following his arrest, the British man reportedly claimed to be the director of a production company and said that he and everyone else were there to shoot a video. So far, officials say that the 9-year-old child was not subjected to any violence, and her mother, who claimed she just wanted to give her daughter a day worthy of a princess, has since been released from questioning. The 55-year-old Latvian man has also been released. However, the British man and the 24-year-old Latvian remain in custody as of this recording and are being questioned on suspicion of fraud and money laundering. A criminal investigation is now underway. Prosecutors say that false documents were submitted when booking the event, which triggered Disneyland Paris to file its own legal complaint. The theme park is reportedly cooperating fully with authorities and say they're taking the situation extremely seriously. At the time of this recording, charges have not yet been officially filed, but officials say more updates are expected soon. Just as we were finishing up work on this video, we saw that more information had been released about this case. And unfortunately, it appears the situation is every bit as bad as it initially seemed. In an update provided by French authorities, it was revealed that the British suspect accused of being behind all of this is 39-year-old Jazkarn Jackie Jaj. Not only is Jaj a convicted sex offender, some of his past offenses have involved underage victims. In 2016, Jaj was jailed for 4 years for grooming and sexually assaulting two 15-year-old girls. As if this weren't unsettling enough, the 39-year-old reportedly has a history of carrying out bizarre and tasteless hoaxes for attention on social media, some of which also have involved children. This includes a fake funeral, as well as a fake 2023 red carpet event in West London, where he reportedly hired 90 children and teens to act as extras for filming. In order to disguise himself during this week's incident, Jaj hired professional makeup artists to change his appearance. French police say that so far they have charged the 39-year-old with fraud, breach of trust, money laundering, and identity theft, though more charges could soon follow. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Indian state of Haryana say that a horrifying family secret was exposed this week after the body of a missing woman was found under chilling circumstances, and it's now alleged that her own husband and in-laws were responsible for the awful crime. The whole thing began on April 24th when 25-year-old Tanu Rajput was reported missing by her husband of 2 years, Aaron Singh. Despite the report, initially it seems that the case wasn't treated very seriously, especially after Aaron and his parents told investigators that they believed Tanu had simply run away. This was elaborated on by Aaron's mother, who explained to their neighbors in the city of Faridabad that Tanu had eloped with another man, something she repeated to the 25-year-old's family. For nearly 2 months, it appears that this story was accepted, until Tanu's family started to grow suspicious. Last week, they finally went to a local police station where they filed their own report, sharing their fears that Tanu had been murdered and that her husband and his family were involved. After launching a proper investigation, it didn't take police long to figure out the awful truth. Upon traveling to Aaron's parents' house in the city's Roshan Nagar area on June 20th, investigators quickly focused on an alleyway right outside the family's home. After deciding to excavate the area, they made a gruesome discovery. Roughly 10 feet below the ground, they found the heavily decomposed remains of Tanu Rajput. The crime got even more unsettling when detectives spoke to some of the family's neighbors. They informed police that right around the time that Tanu disappeared, Aaron and his parents suddenly began digging a large pit in the exact spot where they had now recovered Tanu's body. At the time, apparently no one thought anything out of the ordinary was going on. The neighbors told police that Aaron and his family made up a story about carrying out some construction that was meant to help rainwater drainage and prevent flooding. The work was completed quickly and the pit was soon filled in. It seems anything incriminating was done under the cover of darkness, which is why no one initially suspected anything. Police now argue the whole thing is evidence of the meticulous planning that went into Tanu's murder. In terms of exactly what happened and why, that's still being investigated. Though according to the latest reports, Aaron's father, Bhup Singh, offered a partial confession. The 50-year-old stated during an interrogation that he strangled his daughter-in-law to death late at night several days before she was first reported missing. He claimed that at the time Aaron was at work and his wife was away at a wedding in a different state. While it's unclear if the father-in-law is simply trying to cover for the other suspects, at the very least, police allege all 3 of the family members were knowingly involved in the cover-up. At the time of this recording, only Bhup Singh appears to be in custody, though investigators say that that is expected to change in the coming days. The situation is still developing. Representatives from the Hong Kong police force say that they are investigating a chilling case this week, following the sudden and unsettling disappearance of a Vietnamese woman, a situation that is now suspected to be a murder. The investigation began on the evening of June 21st when Hong Kong police received a call from worried family members of 49-year-old Lisa Leung. The concerned loved ones stated that they hadn't been able to get a hold of Lisa since early that afternoon, when she left the apartment where she lived with her boyfriend and 2 children in the Mong Kok residential district. After launching an investigation, authorities uncovered an alarming trail of surveillance video. It showed Lisa boarding a bus with an unidentified man shortly after leaving her home around noon that day. From there, the pair traveled to an apartment building in the neighboring area of Cheongsha-won. Additional video revealed that Lisa had entered the complex with the man, but there was no footage of her ever leaving. What police did see, though, was incredibly unnerving. While Lisa was never seen again on video, the unidentified man she was with was captured going in and out of the apartment building numerous times over the following hours and days. During these trips, he was carrying heavy-looking bags with him, including plastic trash bags. The man had taken these bags and disposed of them in several garbage bins in the area. Unfortunately, it took police a few days to put all of this together, so by the time they uncovered these details, all of the garbage bins in question had been emptied, with the contents taken to a local landfill. However, when they went into the unidentified man's apartment on June 24th, they soon found additional evidence that an awful crime had been committed. In a statement this week, Hong Kong police revealed that they discovered suspected blood spatter stains inside the unit and recovered a number of items, including cleaning supplies, a rice cooker, pieces of wooden furniture, and the handle of a Japanese-style sword. All of this evidence has since been sent away for forensic testing. Because Lisa has still not been found, so far investigators are being careful about the way they're talking about the case. However, they have said that they fear the worst for the 49-year-old and suspect that they are dealing with a murder. Currently, searches of the local landfill I mentioned before are ongoing. As for the male suspect, his name has not been released by authorities at the time of this recording, though it appears police know who he is. They have already arrested his 25-year-old girlfriend, who they have accused of assisting in the crime, though his whereabouts remain unknown. In terms of the motive, that has likewise not been confirmed, though police have said that they are looking into the theory of a potential financial dispute. According to reports, Lisa Leung is a Vietnamese immigrant who has lived in Hong Kong for 36 years. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the South Korean province of South Jeolla say that a man is in custody this week after he allegedly went to extreme lengths to express his displeasure with his local police department over a series of traffic violations. The suspect, identified only as a man in his 40s, apparently became enraged after being repeatedly caught and fined by speeding cameras in the city of Suncheon. According to reports, he had been cited 36 times since 2021, with 12 of those incidents taking place this year alone. But a recent ticket seems to have finally pushed him over the edge. After deciding that the local police department was to blame, the man showed up at the Suncheon police station on the evening of June 23rd. Upon arriving just after 8:20 p.m., he promptly drove his SUV through the building's front entrance, shattering 2 sets of glass doors before hitting an interior wall and coming to a stop in the lobby. Thankfully, no one was standing in the way of the vehicle at the time, though obviously the suspect had no way of knowing that. He was immediately taken into custody at the scene, and authorities say he is being investigated on charges of unlawful entry into a government facility and destruction of public property. In a report this week, Suncheon police say that the man was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time and estimated the damage to their station at 10 million won, or about $7,200 US. Currently, the irate driver remains in custody. Authorities in Japan say that a man has been arrested after allegedly stealing more than 40 bicycles, all in the hopes of creating what he called the perfect bike. According to reports, the strange case came to light back on April 2nd, during what was supposed to be a routine street stop. Police in the city of Niigata say that they approached a 51-year-old man as part of a standard patrol check, but when they ran the registration number on the bicycle he was riding, they discovered it had been reported stolen. That discovery led to a search of the man's home, and what police found there quickly turned the case from petty theft to something a lot more complicated. Inside the suspect's residence, officers uncovered more than 50 additional bicycles, some with clear signs of damage to their locks. In total, the stash was reportedly valued at over 1 million yen, or about $7,000 US. During questioning, the man admitted to stealing at least 42 bikes over a 4-year span. He told police his goal had been to gather parts from different models in order to build one custom bicycle tailored to his ideal specifications. Initially, the man claimed he only took bikes that had been left unlocked, but investigators say that evidence recovered at the scene suggests otherwise. Several of the recovered bicycles appeared to have been forcibly taken. What was weirder is that despite the man's claims of wanting to make some sort of superbike, most of the stolen bicycles were still intact, suggesting he never actually started his bizarre project. The case has drawn mixed reactions from the public. Some locals have expressed a strange kind of sympathy for the man's passion, while others have pointed out that it caused major disruption for everyday residents who had their bikes stolen over the past several years. At the time of this recording, police say they're continuing to investigate and working to return as many of the recovered bicycles to their rightful owners as possible. So far, no additional suspects have been identified. Authorities in southern France say that they were investigating the aftermath of a disturbing tragedy this week after a bride was gunned down at her own wedding reception during the middle of a terrifying and targeted shooting attack. The incident took place in the early morning hours of June 22nd at a reception hall in the small French village of Goult, located about 25 miles east of the city of Avignon. The day before, a wedding had been held in the village between a 25-year-old man and a 27-year-old woman. They had been joined by friends and family, and by all accounts, the celebration had gone exactly as planned. At this point, it was around 4:30 a.m., and things were winding down. However, as the bride and groom went to leave, the situation suddenly plunged into chaos. Moments after the newlyweds got into their vehicle outside the reception hall, a Volkswagen Golf pulled up behind them, boxing them in. Within a matter of seconds, 4 masked men had gotten out armed with guns and opened fire. Though it appears the 25-year-old groom initially tried to back up and flee, there was no escaping the violence. Instead, he reportedly returned fire with his own weapon, along with some of the remaining wedding guests. Amidst the hail of bullets, the 27-year-old bride was killed, alongside one of the 4 masked gunmen. The 3 remaining suspects sped off in their getaway vehicle before police arrived at the scene. At least 3 additional people were soon treated for gunshot wounds. It said that the groom was among the injured, alongside a 13-year-old boy and a woman. Following the shooting, authorities announced that 2 of the 3 suspects had been arrested. However, 1 currently remains at large. So far, none of the names of anyone involved in the incident have been released, with police only stating that the 2 suspects are between the ages of 20 and 30. While the motive behind the shooting likewise remains unconfirmed, police have stated that they believe the crime was targeted. They also acknowledged that one of the main theories they are pursuing is that the situation was a score-settling incident related to organized crime and drug trafficking. Several local media sources have additionally reported that the 25-year-old groom was previously known to police and has a history of drug-related offenses. The crime has shocked and outraged the local population of Goult, especially because both the victims and the suspects are not residents there. Many have said that they worry the shooting will give their small town a bad reputation, one that they feel it does not deserve. Speaking to the media this week, a local restaurant owner told reporters, quote, "The last major incident in the village was 125 years ago." At the time of this recording, police say the investigation is ongoing, and the manhunt for the remaining suspect continues. Authorities in Italy and Greece say that they've arrested an American man in connection with a horrifying case this month, after the nude bodies of a woman and her infant daughter were discovered in a park in Rome, a situation that is believed to be a double murder. The disturbing case began on June 7th, when a baby girl, believed to be around 6 to 8 months old, was found dead in some bushes inside Villa Pamphili, one of the Italian capital's largest public parks. Just hours later, a second discovery was made nearby. A child playing in the area reportedly spotted an arm sticking out from under a black garbage bag. Underneath was the decomposing body of a woman, later confirmed through DNA to be the baby's mother. Neither victim had any identification, and authorities initially had no idea who they were. Hoping for a lead, police released images of the woman's distinctive tattoos to the public. These were aired on the popular Italian missing persons show Chi l'ha visto, or Who Has Seen Them, on June 9th. That broadcast led to a tip from a viewer and eventually a male suspect. Officials say that the man was seen with the woman and child in the days leading up to their deaths. He has now been identified as 46-year-old Charles Francis Kaufman, an American citizen from California who had been traveling under the name Rexel Ford, using a U.S. passport. Witnesses say Kaufman had introduced himself as a filmmaker and was spotted with the pair around Rome, including near homeless shelters and soup kitchens close to the Vatican. Investigators say cell phone data, witness statements, and fingerprints on the bag that had been used to hide the woman's body eventually pointed to Kaufman. Authorities believe he fled Italy on Wednesday, June 11th, just as public interest in the case began to grow. 2 days later, he was arrested by Greek authorities on the island of Skiathos, after a joint investigation involving Italian police and the FBI traced his credit and SIM card usage. At the time of this recording, Kaufman is in Greek custody awaiting extradition to Italy, though his legal team is pushing for his return to the United States. As for the victims, neither has been formally identified, but both are believed to be American. The baby reportedly showed signs of strangulation, while the cause of death of the mother remains unclear. Autopsy reports noted no visible wounds, though her body was said to be in a more advanced state of decomposition, suggesting she may have died several days before her daughter. Additional witness testimony provided to Chi l'ha visto included reports of a domestic altercation between the woman and a man in a central Rome square, an incident that prompted police to respond, but no arrest was made. Disturbingly, a photo has since surfaced showing a crying baby in Kaufman's arms while he was speaking with police just 2 days before she was found dead. The mother is not visible in that image. Authorities continue to investigate the exact nature of the relationship between Kaufman and the victims and whether any others were involved. A motive has not yet been publicly revealed. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.